All right, we need to talk about what might just be the most insane business pivot in the history of tech. Seriously, we're talking about OpenAI and the secret, absolutely massive plan they have to solve an impossible financial problem. It's a strategy that's, well, it's shocking, but also, weirdly, it makes a ton of sense.
Yep, that's the bombshell. Starting in December 2025, ChatGPT is apparently rolling out an adult mode for users who can verify their age. So why? Well, after months and months of people complaining that the AI is way too sanitized, too restrictive, OpenAI is leaning into one of the oldest and, let's be honest, most profitable rules of the internet.
Now, the official line from CEO Sam Altman sounds pretty noble. He frames it as a stand for free expression, right? The argument is that OpenAI should be a neutral platform, not some kind of global hall monitor. But behind that very high-minded ideal, there's a much, much more urgent reason for this whole thing.
Let's just translate the PR speak into reality for a second. What that statement really means is we are in a massive financial hole. This isn't some philosophical choice they made over coffee. Nope. This is a move born out of pure, cold, hard desperation. And that brings us right to the heart of the problem. The staggering, almost unbelievable financial pressure that OpenAI is dealing with right now. It all kicks off with this number, $1.6 trillion. It's a number so big your brain can barely even process it. This isn't profit or revenue. It's the amount of money OpenAI has promised to spend on infrastructure with partners like Microsoft and Oracle. It is a truly mind-boggling amount of cash. Okay, so now let's compare that colossal promise to their actual situation. Right now, OpenAI's annual revenue is just $13 billion. Now, for most companies, that's an incredible number, but for them, it's not even 1% of what they've committed to spend. The gap between what they make and what they owe is just astronomical. Oh, and it gets worse. On top of that huge gap, they are also burning through $8 billion a year just to keep the lights on and the servers running. They are hemorrhaging money at an incredible rate. Their whole business model is fundamentally, mathematically, completely unsustainable. And look, this chart really says it all. On the left, you see that little tiny bar? That's their revenue. And on the right, that absolute skyscraper, that's what they've promised to spend. You really don't need a degree in finance to see that this is a five-alarm fire. They need to find a river of cash, and they needed it yesterday. So, you're faced with impossible math. Where do you possibly turn? Well, if you look back through tech history, there's a surprisingly consistent answer. The adult industry has always been the silent and, let's be real, often unacknowledged engine of new technology. This is not a new playbook at all. It's a classic that just repeats itself. Back in the 80s, adult content drove the adoption of VCRs, making up half of all videotape sales. Then, in the 90s, it accounted for a third of all internet traffic. In the 2000s, it pushed streaming tech forward. And today, it's a huge reason people are buying VR headsets. History shows time and again, this market is a tech pioneer.
And we're not just talking about watching videos. The adult industry literally perfected the tools of e-commerce that we all use every single day. Secure online payments, video compression, live streaming platforms like Twitch, even subscription models like Netflix. All of these were battle-tested and refined in the adult market first.
So knowing all this, OpenAI isn't just accidentally stumbling into this incredibly lucrative market. It looks like they have a very clear, very deliberate, multi-phase plan to conquer it.
The whole rollout seems to be planned in 3 distinct steps. Phase 1 is the easy money, right now. A simple subscription upsell for an uncensored adult mode. Phase 2 gets a lot more ambitious. They'll license their AI tech to the booming sex robot industry and take a royalty on every single unit sold. In Phase 3, that's the endgame, creating their very own OpenAI-branded AI companions, where they control the entire hardware and software ecosystem.
Okay, so how does this grand plan actually fix that insane trillion-dollar math problem? This is where it all clicks into place. Let's actually run the numbers and see how this could work.
First, you have to get your head around the sheer size of the prize here. You combine the markets for sex tech, AI-powered sex robots, and digital adult content, you're looking at a total addressable market of nearly $180 billion every single year. That is a massive pie just sitting there waiting for someone to take a slice.
And here is the key point. OpenAI doesn't even need to win the whole market. Not even close. They just need a piece. If they capture a pretty conservative 20% of that pie, that would generate over $35 billion in new annual revenue. And that brings us to the aha moment. Let's just round up and say they generate $40 billion a year from this pivot. In the tech world, fast-growing companies get these huge valuations, right? Often a multiple of their revenue. Let's use a standard 50x multiplier. 40 billion times 50, that makes OpenAI a $2 trillion company. And suddenly, that $1.6 trillion spending promise, it doesn't look impossible anymore. It actually looks manageable. The math finally works. But hold on, OpenAI isn't operating in a vacuum here. A move this big has massive implications for the entire AI industry, and it's kicking off a fierce and probably pretty messy competition.
And what's really wild is that they're actually playing catch-up. Elon Musk's company xAI has already jumped in headfirst, launching sexually explicit chatbots on its Grok platform. So the race to the bottom, or to the top, depending on how you look at it, is already on. And it looks like the winners are going to be the ones willing to risk their mainstream image first.
And the impact here goes way beyond just a few competing AI companies. This whole situation is a textbook example of something economists call creative destruction. AI-powered companions could completely disrupt and replace huge parts of the traditional sex work industry, everything from cam sites to escort services. Which leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? Is this a brilliant, if, controversial business strategy? A classic case of creative destruction paving the way for the future? Or is this just the first shot in a desperate, reputation-be-damned race to the bottom for the entire AI industry? The answer to that is probably going to define the next chapter of technology for all of us.